This is Gamer Weekly, bringing you the latest of what the video game scene has to offer. On today's episode of Gamer Weekly, I have Vincent from Rice Cooker Republic, and we're going to be talking about their latest game, Bokida. Hey everyone, welcome to Gamer Weekly, the weekly show about games. With me today is Vincent.
Hi.
We're going to roll with that intro, because why not? So
Yeah, great intro. Starting with laughs is always good.
Everyone listening now is like, oh no, what have I done? So Vincent here is about to, at the time of recording, they are about to release a game called, I'm going to butcher this, Bokida?
Yeah, perfect.
I did it. I didn't totally ask him before we started recording. So Vincent here is with Rice Cooker Republic and Bokida. I just had the chance to try out the game, and just from playing about like an hour of it, if you are a fan of Antichamber or any game that just looks really trippy, this is definitely a game worth checking out. So what inspired this game?
Oh wow, that's a big question. there are several aspects like to consider in the inspirations. There's definitely like other games that inspire us, namely Antichamber, but also games like Journey, games like theyre, like some games you would call walking simulators, because we are big fans of walking simulators, and which is why Bokida is a game that's mainly focused around exploration in this open world that you can travel through. And there are inspirations that are more indirect, that evolved from the evolution of the prototype, because initially the game was a student project, and we turned it into a full released game. After like over the course of several years, because in total it's been like 4 years, we've been working on the project on the side, and some of the inspiration for it we've drawn from the point where we decided to turn, okay, we have this prototype which is very much like a toy-like, very playful, and we want to make it into a full game, and that's when we started coming up with the narrative for the game, where you have these two planets basically who are personified as lovers, and you as the player, your role is to help them reunite. And this was inspired by first the elements that we had in the prototype that led us in that direction, but also it led us to investigate thereism, actually. Which is the reason why we investigated it was originally because, like we've been able to discuss a little bit beforehand, the game has influences that are inspired by Korea, and when we looked into, let's say, folklore, like the traditional Korean culture, for using this as inspiration for certain names. For example, for the names of the chapters of the game, which are named after traditional seasons in the Korean calendar. We came to look into like old belief systems, like how the traditional beliefs stem from, which led us to theism. And it's when we looked into it at that point that we realized, oh, there are a lot of things that echo with the content that we have in the game, with the elements that we have, with the vocabulary that we have in the game. And so this was also an inspiration, like to look into the Tao Te Ching, which is like the book of Taoism, and to draw inspiration from it for narrative. So from this, you have the full spectrum from like some gameplay influences, some games that influence us, all the way to other elements of culture that we've drawn from to put into the game.
And the game also kind of has like a like a dreamlike state. Like every time that I found something, I felt like I was just getting further and further into like this like lucid dreaming feel of it. So how did you guys create like this kind of like immersive experience? Like how do you make a player feel like they're in this world?
Yeah, that's something that was very important. We have this kind of a dreamy quality to being in this world, and I think the way we achieved this was because initially we had the main like the core of the game was the tools that we give the player, which is very playful. You can generate structures, you can cut and sculpt them in real time, you can play with physics and push the fragments that you create, and you can use this to exist in the environment. And there was a way of creating some sort of a cocoon or like a canvas in which you can play with these tools, which would be this environment, which is like an open world, but that feels like a territory because you can actually see things in the distance and go there. And so what I think helps to give the dreamy quality to the game is that since the main way you exist in the game by using those two quite abstract tools that bring color to this like white canvas, they've been the canvas itself has been designed to elicit like new ways or contextual ways for you to use these tools, especially in the few environmental puzzles that you have, which creates this idea, or at least this feeling that when you're doing something in the game, when you're using the mechanics that you have at your disposal, they have a resonance always with the world around you, because this world kind of makes kind of gives sense to what you're able to do. And so I think it's because of this that it gives sense to these abstract tools that you have, and it's actually used in environmental puzzles, and it's used also in contexts where we invite you to maybe take a step back and think about what you can do with these mechanics that we give you. Probably that has to do with why you feel when you're in the world that there's the idea of a sense of place. Maybe that's a good way to put it.
Because towards the beginning of the game, I walked out of a room and you could look down and you just see like endless, like nothing. Like,
oh yeah,
like you just stare down and it kind of looks like, you know, when you look at a mirror and then it's like reflecting another mirror, and you just kind of keep looking down. And I was so confused on what I could even do, so I just kept jumping down. I'm like, where am I supposed to go? And then I and then I look behind me, and then it's like the door. It was like number 1. I'm like, was that there before? Well, maybe I went the wrong way, and I'm gonna go this way. And then it's just then the world just changes, and I'm like, oh, that's okay. I didn't expect that.
Yeah, that's why I think when you mentioned anti-chamber, that's especially this feeling you get at this point in the game. It echoes some of the stuff that you have in anti-chamber in the beginning, where there's this kind of a chute where it says don't jump, and you have to jump. If you jump, you cannot go. But if you let yourself drop, like it's a passage, there's ground that you can walk on. So you have this feeling of every time you were, especially when you're on the black world, which is the place where you are in the sequence that you just described. There's always this idea that you're kind of trapped in some kind of a trick of the mind that you have to find to understand how it works, to find the way out.
Yeah. So there was also one part too where there was these these 4 like big crystal parts. Like this is all towards the beginning of the game, by the way, everyone. Like I like no spoilers. I don't want to tell you too much of what happens in it, but there is a part where I didn't even realize it was a puzzle. It was these 4 like crystal pillar things, and there was like these like paper airplanes like coming out of one of them, and you had to connect it all. And I was like, I didn't even know that this was even a thing. I thought it was like, oh, this looks neat. And then and then I just like, I wonder if you can like push those into it, and then going up and I'm like, oh, you're supposed to solve this. So I felt like an idiot doing that. So if you decide to play the game, make sure to put some blocks down and stuff. And how did you guys come up with like the puzzles of the game? Because it seems like the game, it tells you what to do, but it also like it tells you like, here are the things that you have, and then that's it. Oh, it's totally something.
Bang! That's it.
That's it.
Mic drop.
Show's over. That's how it goes. That's how we do it here. We break everything. But yeah, how do you guys make like the puzzles? Like, how do you work it in such a way to where you don't tell the player how to do it, but they slowly figure it out?
So yeah, the idea we had at the beginning of the project was, and it's still something that you find in the game, it's that we wanted to accommodate a variety of play styles. Potentially there's not a right way to play and a wrong way to play. That's why we usually just, like generally speaking in the game, we give you these tools, and then it's up to you to figure out how you want to use them, and to see what you want to do with them and where you want to go. You can go in any direction at the beginning. There's no like one path to follow. But so when we decided, designed the puzzles, we had this idea of having each player learn their own way of using the tools, and maybe develop their own play style regarding those tools. And the idea was, okay, we're gonna try to first anchor the puzzles by creating this idea of like interactive landscapes, where you would arrive in some place where suddenly the rules that governed how your tools react to the environment are slightly changed, and you have to figure out, take a step back from the way you've been playing so far and from the familiarity that you have with the tools, and maybe take the time to consider, okay, I can do all of this. Maybe in the panel of things that I can do, there's one way of utilizing those tools in this place that will have an effect, like will transform something. And so, of course, there had to be some sort of guidance from us. Like there's a vocabulary. When there's a puzzle, there's always usually in the white world, there's always a trace of black that tell you there's something that can change, that can transform here. And then it's effectively up to the player to like just experiment basically and try out different stuff with the tools that you have. You always know that it's going to involve these 4 tools that you have. So the idea was, okay, we're going to give a safe space for the player to experiment with it and see if they can figure out how they have to use these tools to solve the puzzles here. And at the same time, it's never like necessarily an issue, because you're never like trapped and forced to do the puzzle. You can always backtrack and say, okay, I can't figure it out. I'll go another place and come back later.
Yeah, no, because like, yeah, there were definitely some times where I felt like I was going the wrong way, or I was like, maybe I'm supposed to go this way. And then there was definitely at certain points where I was kind of treating it kind of like, I don't know if you played Breath of the Wild yet, where I kind of just started making my own adventure as I was going through it. So, because there's the mechanic in there where you can like put down cubes, and then like you can right click to like go faster towards the
boost,
cube.
yeah.
Yeah, so like I was placing down cubes and I was just like ice skating along the terrain. I was like, this is really cool. Like I really like this.
We wanted to retain this very playful quality to the game, so it's also why it's less, it's more open-ended, freeform in the terms of like not guiding the players too much, because similarly to what I was saying before, the idea is each player, given the tools, will find a way to have fun with them, and maybe will get more and more familiar with them as they play along, and potentially this will lead them astray. Like this will lead them to just forget about the puzzles or the reuniting the two planets, and just enjoying for various amounts of time being in a place and just fooling around with what you have, like just like you were saying, ice skating or gliding in the air, or just building stuff and watch them tumbling down and push stuff. And what's interesting to us was to make sure that as you go along playing the game as a player, since you become more familiar with the tools, and since we gradually also give you extended abilities, like we enhance what you can do with the tools, and so we make it possible for you to be even more playful. The idea was that hopefully at some point in playing the game, the player will kind of lose himself in just having fun, and that was something that we were interested in making possible, at least in the system. Then it's up to the player to, and to their own curiosity, to maybe either effectively stray away or just follow the main narrative up until the end.
So what is I'm sorry if I'm gonna butcher it now, because now I'm thinking about it too much. What does Bokida mean to you?
Wow. That's a tough question. What does it mean to me? First, I think it's what's really important for the entire team, actually, with Bokida, is that we were really able to nurture this project and to make the project we wanted to make, because we were, of course, like we are an independent team, but also we had the luck of having the resources and the living conditions that allowed us to pursue the project for 4 years alongside whatever else we were doing, and be able to carry it to fruition. And this is something that we were very lucky to be able to do, because not everyone gets to make the game they always wanted to make, and we've had this chance. And so that's the first big thing for me. Like, what does the game represent to me is this amazing opportunity to have been able to create something and to release it into the world, and but create something that I really had like a special relationship to. That's really an expression of something we wanted to make, and that echoes with what I was saying about creating a game where potentially you allow the player, because you don't hold necessarily him by the hand all the way, you allow the player to just get lost in his own curiosity, in his own playfulness. And since it was an intention that we had in the beginning of the project, it's really fortunate, or at least we feel very lucky. I feel very lucky to have been able to make it, even though it's, like you said, it's like it's a dreamy, it's kind of a trippy game that potentially wouldn't have been made if there were more pressing constraints on it, and on its marketability, because in our case we also were lucky not to depend upon its performance for eating or or paying rent and stuff like that.
So is the game going to be coming out on consoles as well, or is it just going to be on PC?
For now, it's just PC. We have we don't have any dev kits for one thing, and for another, the other thing is we always had the limited resources as a team, since we didn't fund the development. We didn't pay ourselves to develop the game, so we had to manage our resources among the team. And so in terms of programming time and availability of the programmers, that's also why for now it's not envisioned to be available on consoles, because we would have had to invest in doing the porting as well.
So the game comes out while this is recording. The game is going to come out tomorrow, but when this episode's out, the game will already be out.
Yeah.
So I wish you guys the best of luck on your guys' release.
Thank you.
I think it's an awesome game, and honestly, the game came absolutely out of nowhere for me, and I look forward to playing more of it. And anybody out there that wants to try a game that's just completely different than what they're used to, I would highly recommend it. It's a very creative game. It's very trippy, very Journey Antichamber kind of feel to it. So you feel like you're in a whole different world while you're playing it. So I highly recommend checking out this game. Go buy it immediately. You're gonna be completely.
Yes.
It's something. It's unique. It's such a unique kind of experience, and I don't think you're ever gonna play something that is gonna be quite like this game. So definitely go check it out and tell your friends, because trust me, it's good. I don't know how many times I gotta tell you, but it's amazing. So, Vincent, thank you guys. Thank you so much for coming onto the show. I greatly appreciate it. And
thank you for inviting us. It was a pleasure to be invited and to be able to do this with you.
And thank you
it's even more pleasure seeing all the praise that you have for the game.
This whole episode was just to me praise you guys. So, also thank you for giving me the code to the game. Now, just because they did that doesn't mean I'm saying that it's good because of that. It's a good game. Even if they wouldn't have given me the code, I still would have thought it was a great game. So, if you enjoyed the episode, like the episode, subscribe to the show, and tell your friends. That's all I can really think of. So thank you guys so much for listening, and goodbye.
Thank you, Justin.